Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Constantia Neck podcast, where we're talking everything Two Oceans Ultra Marathon. As usual, your coach Shona Hendricks is with me today. Shona, how are you doing?
Good, Dev. Thank you very much. Good to be back. Exciting times. We are nearing closer and closer to the day.
Getting very close now in the last couple of weeks. Shona, just something that you and I have been kind of keeping close to our chest for the last week. Obviously, we've been waiting for this episode. But having run the qualifier in the last possible time that was available, I know you qualified. Congrats. How did the race go?
Yeah, thanks, Dev. It was a long day out. I mean, qualification in the bag for sure. But so I ran Irland's beautiful race. Really enjoyed it. Well, wait, no, I really enjoyed the beauty of the race. Marathons are hard. Race went well. I mean, I ran even splits. I'm not too chuffed with my time. I did a 4:38 official time. Would have liked closer to a 4:25, but it was, no excuses, but it was really hot. And I do think that played a role into it. But, and also, with my injury last year, only really been training consistently for 8 weeks. So I suppose I can't really be upset by that. But yeah, just keep pushing towards that. And the goal's Oceans, and the goal is another marathon at the end of the year. So building towards that. And so, yeah, I guess qualify in the bag and chuffed about that. And Dev, your race. I mean, I know you also ran Irlands, and are you happy to give us a rundown of yours?
Yeah, mine unfortunately went the other direction. Something that I want to try and forget as quick as possible, but it is what it is. Obviously, I didn't qualify. Unfortunately, it was a really tough day. Look, it was always going to be a stretch. So, I mean, if I ran the qualifying time, would have been my PB anyways, and a pretty massive PB. So, yeah, I went out. I think, look, all in all, I was really nervous last week or the week before, leading into the race. I think probably got to myself a little bit. But because it was such a stretch, I think I had to push myself a little bit hard. And Irlands being Irlands, with the nature of that route and the significant amount of elevation lost in the first sort of 10 to 15 Ks, definitely took its toll. So it was run in a way that it probably shouldn't have been run. But yeah, unfortunately, it got to a point where I think at 25 Ks, my nutrition was really good, my hydration was really good, but I got to 25 Ks and the lights just completely went out, and obviously time slipping away from me. So yeah, unfortunately, didn't happen. One I'm a little bit bleak about, but it's life. It's one of those things. It's something I learned from now and start planning towards the next one. It's definitely not the end of the dream. But it took me. I'm only just starting to walk normally again. It took me a good couple of days after that to just be able to get up and down out of a chair. So yeah, tough day out, but hey, we're here. It's time for me to now second and be on the side of the road. So looking forward to that part of it as well. You're going to be running, but a couple of other mates running as well. So yeah, looking forward to that side of it. Sean, maybe just to kind of kick us off here with that, maybe just from your side, in your recommendations as the coach, if someone didn't qualify, I know we're a week past that qualifying time, and it's like myself, had a little bit of time to just let the dust settle and reflect on it a bit. But sort of what should people be considering if they didn't qualify for it? And obviously there's now no opportunity to do that again. So Oceans, unfortunately, is not a possibility this year. What are your take-home sort of messages here around that?
Yeah, I mean, as disappointing as that is, and Dev, obviously, with yours as well. I mean, I know how disappointed you are, but you have had time to reflect a little bit, and so I think that's the thing: is take that disappointment and understand that, what happened. But the biggest thing I see, the biggest mistake I see people make is they sort of go, "Oh, I didn't qualify." They're so upset. They stop running. We're coming into winter, so it gets tough to keep yourself going, but they lose all the momentum that they've gained and all the fitness that they've gained over the past couple of weeks or months, and then of course Oceans are still the goal. So then come November, they start training again, and then they find themselves in the same situation where they have to qualify in March or, late February again. So my main advice would be to don't lose the momentum. Obviously, take your recovery. You would have had 1 week now. Take another week if you need to. That's completely fine. But just get back into the training. Set yourself a goal to qualify at the end of the year. So whether that be, Cape Town, obviously Cape Town's going to be moving now, but there's many marathons to run at the end of the year. So find one that you can run at the end of the year. So then when you qualify at the end of the year, there's no pressure next year in the build up to your Oceans. Oceans is always going to be there. So it's an amazing race. It's been around for a long time. So I would take some stock now, reflect, maybe figure out why you did, maybe chat to the coaches. Why didn't it work for you? What could have been done better? Did you not add in strength? Whatever the reasons are, and really take stock of that. I would recommend dropping down to perhaps a 10K or a 21K plan for now, and then build back up to a marathon plan for the end of the year to aim as that as your qualifier, because you'll then be taking all that fitness and momentum that you've built now and be adding onto it. And if you were on the cusp of the qualifier, I would put in good faith that you'd be able to qualify at the end of the year if you continue with the momentum.
Yeah, and I think another one with that is, like you said, just kind of take stock, and if you need to take another week, I know something for me personally as well. You've been training for so many weeks already,
Yes.
like you've been in the zone, so the monotony of training can also be a little bit taxing. So taking 2 weeks off is really not the end of the world. I mean, it's something where you just kind of letting the mind just reboot, refresh, and get that itch to get going again. Get a bit of cross training going through the winter as well, if that's something, maybe to just add different puzzle pieces as well. But yeah, like you say, I suppose don't lose the momentum, don't give up.
Yeah, Dev, sorry, and I think that's a key point. Sorry, that you mentioned there around the monotony and being stuck. Following a training plan is mentally tiring. So that's why I say drop down to like a 10K plan. So you don't have to. Then you don't have to follow that religiously. It's also less volume. The training isn't as intense. So yeah, I think that mental break is key. I would just give fair warning, because I struggle training in winter, is start before it starts getting too cold, that you just get back into that routine so that you don't lose it through winter.
Yeah, hundreds. Sean, with us being 4 weeks out now from race day, I mean, we are getting really close, and we're getting kind of to crunch time at the moment. From a training point of view, so for those lucky enough to be doing this race, where are we? What are we doing?
Yeah, definitely the business end of things now. So if you did qualify last week, like myself, then you would have had a week of rest, and this coming week you'll be easing back into training and probably building up towards one more longish kind of run. So definitely not as long as your marathon, or time wise, anyways. And so you will be going into one more longish run. If you had already qualified, you probably did your last long run, which would have been a big run this weekend, that's just gone now. So the big things now, guys, is we're in the business end. You've really done majority of the training, and so try not to cram training in here. If you miss a session, right? Don't try and play catch up. And the key thing here is that we need you to stay healthy, and stay injury free. Okay, so by cramming sessions in, you're risking an injury, and obviously coming into winter. Well, I mean, it doesn't really feel like that in Pretoria just yet, but still, just make sure you're staying healthy, right? So if you're traveling, I would travel with a mask, and sort of aspects. I would keep ensuring that you're taking multivitamins or Baroccas or things like that. So whatever your multivitamin is, try to ensure that it has zinc in it as well, because that's really good for the immune system. And so that's the key thing: staying injury free and healthy. Majority of the training has been done, and of course in the up and coming episodes we will speak about taper and so on from there. But yeah, that's where we are at the moment. Really just ticking over and wrapping yourself in cotton wool for the next couple of weeks.
Awesome. Guys, I'm going to kind of keep dangling the carrot here, because the main sort of aim of and the meat of today's podcast is really talking about the route and the overview of the route. But we're not going to get there just yet. Sean, before we do, maybe if you want to just talk about like last pointers around seeding, obviously with qualifying now in the bag and hopefully all the admin's done. I hope everyone made sure they did all their admin on the Two Oceans website. But just talk about seeding and maybe the start procedures and that at the race itself.
Yeah, so I'm not 100% sure of how they're going to do the seeding. Obviously, in years before COVID, they would have big batches, quite similar to the Comrade seeding batches. When I ran in 2023, which was the last Comrades, the last Oceans I ran, they were smaller batches that went off every minute and a half. So they just sort of flowed. I mean, I think I was in in batch J, and then, you know, I had a couple of people that were in M, you know, so big batches. So if you do get a thing saying you're in batch M, don't worry. It's not like you're going to struggle. Those batches move very quickly. Okay. So I think the key, we'll tap in future episodes as to what time to get into your seeding, into your pen, and all sorts of things like that. But I think just keep an eye out on the Ocean's website for now around what they're saying. Obviously, with everyone just having qualified last weekend, they're still obviously working all of that out. So just a couple of things with the start, though, is that the race starts in the dark. Okay. I know, again, when I ran in 2023, I don't know if it was just load shedding or what it is, but those roads there were no lights either. So it is very, very dark. And so please be careful. Watch out for the cat's eyes. Every year I see someone trip on that and fall. And you really just, it's heartbreaking for me that you've done all this training and then that happens. And then, a lot of people are wearing plastic bags to keep themselves warm. And so watch that you don't slip on those. And so, it's something else we wanted to mention is to say, wear something to discard in the morning, because it does get a bit chilly. I've been in different starts where it's drizzled a little bit. So, make sure you have something that you're happy to discard. As far as possible, guys, I try and err against the plastic bags. One, just for the environment, and two, your fellow runners tripping, so please try and maybe find something that you are happy, to discard that, that you really don't mind dropping. But please be careful with the race starts. Watch your fellow runners. There's cat's eyes, and there's also a couple of islands in the middle of the road that you must just keep an eye out for. And we'll go into this now, but you want to start slow. Okay. You really, really, really want to start slow, but we'll dive into some of that in a little bit in this episode.
Well, let's maybe dive straight into that. So, into the route itself, you talk about slow. We'll talk a little bit later just in terms of sort of pacing and how to work around the route specific. But Shona, if you can maybe just break down the route for us. There's a whole 56 Ks of this route. So we know lots of climbing, really cool race itself. But can you give us a breakdown, like chunk by chunk, as to what we should be looking at?
If you're over 50 and want to recover from sessions faster, run pain and injury-free, and improve your endurance, then be sure to join Lindsay and I for our upcoming Faster Beyond 50 Masterclass. In it, we'll show you how we helped a 70-year-old run a 47-minute, 18-second 10K, and how you can take those exact same principles and apply them in your training. Simply scan the QR code that's on screen right now, or click on the link in the description below to save your seat in the training now. We look forward to seeing you there.
Yeah, definitely. So starting off there by the stadium or Newlands or the brewery, in and around there, and the first 18 kilometers is essentially a net downhill. With the excitement of the start and everything, enjoy the national anthem, take all of that in, soak it up. I always cry before the race has even started. Dev always mocks me about that, but just really enjoy that, and being South African and loving that. That's an amazing part of it. But because of all that adrenaline, the first 5Ks is a little bit of a climb, but you don't really notice it because it's in the beginning. So you really need to be cognizant to hold yourself back. Obviously, everyone's flying past you. It's just very, very key, though, that you hold yourself back. So the first sort of 10Ks or so, you'll be coming through Wynberg, heading towards Muizenberg. And, oh, guys, the sunshine on that mountain is it's majestic. So enjoy that as the sun is shining or rising. And then, you sort of get through Muizenberg and Kalk Bay. And that's just really, really cool, because there's bands that are playing in Kalk Bay. It's your first view of the ocean or second view of the ocean. And so that's really great sort of momentum. And now you're getting into a bit of a rhythm. Okay. And so, but guys, I can't stress this enough. Okay. That you want to start the first 18 kilometers of this race very slowly. We don't want to bank time. We want to make sure that we have legs for the climbs at the end, but we definitely don't want to bank time. And if I just give you a story, in 2023 when I ran, I think I told this in the last episode as well, but just very quickly, I was trying to hold back in the first 10, 15 Ks, and I kept going, Shona, you're running too fast. You're running too fast. And as I mentioned, there were batch M running past me, and I kept going, oh, well, surely I'm running slow enough. And I was running about 5 to 10 seconds per kilometer too fast, and it just bit me at the end. I really struggled for this race. So really, really important. Make sure that you're starting slow. Hold yourself back. If you think you're running slow enough, you're probably not. Okay. So because it's a net downhill for the first 18 Ks. Then we get towards Noordhoek. You'll come obviously through Fishhoek and so on. And Fishhoek's actually your first climb. So in and around 24 Ks, where the turn to go to Simonstown and Fishhoek is a little bit of a climb there. And you run through a bit of a suburban area, which starts to feel a little monotonous because now you're like, okay, where are these hills? Where are these hills? And so you're getting a bit antsy. But just take it easy there. And then you come into Noordhoek, where we then go to start climbing Chappies, right? So guys, again, just have a look to your left and enjoy that Noordhoek beach. It is also absolutely stunning. Stop and take a photo. I mean, the race there's a lot of climbing to do here, so you can afford to stop and take a photo. It is just absolutely gorgeous. And then, so that's in and around 26, 27, 28 Ks that we start climbing Chappies. And this is where the race essentially starts, right? And so we're climbing Chappies until I think the top of Chappies is around 35 Ks. So, and you'll really enjoy lots of runners, everyone just feeling really, really good.
Shona, sorry to interrupt you. You're talking about Chappies, and I know Chappies is a nice long climb, and it's a really cool challenge in itself. But just a little sort of caveat here, something I've heard, something about a false Chappies.
Yeah.
Maybe just a warning to people listening there.
Yeah, excellent. Thanks, Deb, for that. False Chappies. So you climb Chappies, and if you're a novice, you got to climb and climb and climb, and then you're going to get to the top of Chappies, and you're going to go, oh, thank goodness, I'm at the top here, and just realize that you're not. Okay, so there's false Chappies. You sort of get through the tunnel, and then you're like, oh, I'm at the top, and you're not, and then once you turn the corner, you look up and there's just this sea of runners climbing up ahead of you. And it is a little bit disheartening. And so you're like, oh, man, come on. So what I do, because I did that in my first Oceans, and I said to my boyfriend at the time, I was like, oh, we're at the top. And he was like, no, I don't think we are. I was like, you never listened to me. I'm telling you, we're at the top. And he was like, I don't think we are. And as we turned that corner, there was a sea of runners running up. And so what I do now is I only think that I'm at the top of Chapman's Peak when I can see Hart Bay, like the actual bay itself. Okay, so that is a good indication to make sure that you're at the top of Chappies. And then it's a downhill, obviously down into Hart Bay. Guys, I can't stress this enough. Obviously, you want to use the downhill. You want to keep the legs moving, and it's nice reprieve. It is really, really great, but just don't gun it down Chappies, right? And we've spoken about this before in the podcast. When you're running downhill, there's more wear and tear on your muscles. Your muscles are contracting eccentrically, so they're pulling apart. So there's a lot more wear and tear and damage to the muscles there. And so if you sprint down Chappies, you are going to burn on Constantia Neck. Okay, so hold back, use the downhill, enjoy the view. It is absolutely stunning, and hopefully the weather plays its part as well. But it is really, really gorgeous. And so, just don't try and gun it down there. Just gently use your stride, get into a nice stride. As you come into Hart Bay, it's great to have people there. Very often that's a nice seconding spot for your family and friends who perhaps are seconding you. And it's just absolutely gorgeous. It does start getting quite hot in and around this. So now as you're coming through Hart Bay and you get to the Izimyetu circle, very, very hot. And then that is where we start. Essentially, the climb of Constantia Neck starts in and around 42. So it's not steep. Okay, so I know the actual climb itself is much shorter and steeper, but essentially you're going to start. It's a gentle drag at 42 kilometers. So at the marathon mark, you are going to start this gentle drag. So don't gun it through there either. Just run, walk, get your pace, get your rhythm over there. It is very, very warm because there's no trees around that part. So make sure that you have some water and stuff to douse yourself with, or to dip your hat in, or something to keep you nice and cool. And then that is really where we start the climb. Okay, so Constantia Neck climb itself is around 2 to 3 kilometers, and it's some of the hardest running you're going to do in your life. Okay, it is very tough. So walk, run that as much as you want. And then you'll get to the top of the neck at around 48 to 49 kilometers. And the crowds are just amazing there. You're going to know you're at the top there. They have banners and they have crowds, and yeah, you'll just know you're at the top of Constantia Neck. And it's just, yeah, it's an awesome feeling. One, you know you're at the top of Constantia Neck and you're on the way home, but two, it's just it's a great vibe as well.
Shona, before you get further into it, again, coming over Constantia Neck there, and when we start getting kind of into those suburby areas, something this race is really known for is the camber of the roads that you're running on. How do you suggest tackling the camber itself and going about that?
Yeah, I mean, even Constantia Neck, you know, it turns like this, and so it is tough, and you're tired. I mean, you've run more than a marathon by this point. So once you're at the top of Constantia Neck and sort of heading towards Bishop Court or through Bishop's Court, the camber is tough. And as I say, you're tired and your knees are sore. Try and run. Well, what I do, anyways, it works for me. It's not the most direct route. So if you're feeling good, I guess you could run on the camber and run the most, you know, tangents of the route. But I'm normally quite sore by this point, so I run at top. You'll see there's where the camber is. There's just a little lip of an edge of that goes into the forest from there, and I normally run up there just because it feels easier. But of course, if you are feeling strong and you want to run the tangents, you can. But there is a little lip that allows you to then just take the pressure off. I mean, you've just climbed, some of the hardest climbing that you will ever do. And by then, you're coming into Bishop's Court. It's very pretty. You know, those pine trees are gorgeous. And then you'll come up towards the top gate, the Kirstenbosch top gate. And it's a really nice downhill. I know they've changed the route slightly there, where we just do a little loop in and around the top of the gate, and then you get a nice downhill towards past Kirstenbosch. And it's really nice and downhill until about 2 kilometers to go. And so enjoy that, you know, and again, if you've got the legs now I could say you could pick up the pace there a little bit on that downhill. Ideally, you're at the top of Constantia Neck at around 49. I mean, it would be the best way to run this race is to have that last 7Ks or so as your fastest split. I mean, that would be amazing if you've got the legs to do it. I've only managed that one time out of 5. So, you want to try and keep your legs for there. Yep, nice downhill. You get to turn left onto the M3. There's a bit of a climb there. There's normally a water point there as well. And just get up that climb. And then when you're on the M3, I mean, now you're on the way home, right? Like you're heading on the way home. Just be aware that there are 1 or 2 little bites or little hills that'll bite you there. I remember running with my training partner, a friend of ours, of Dev and mine, and it was her first Oceans. And when we turned onto the M3, I was like, Kansas, this is it. This is the last climb. You've got this all the way. And then, I mean, I think there's one more hill as you get into just before the university. And she used some choice words, and she definitely doesn't normally use those words at all. So just be aware of that. And you're tired, but you're home. Okay, so just get over those. Get onto the grass. UCT is beautiful as well, and then obviously it's the crowds, and then you're home. And so it's a beautiful route, guys. Don't forget to stop and take it in. I hope the weather plays ball, but it's really, really, really important that you run this race with a good pacing strategy, because if you don't, you're going to burn. And so don't bank time. Okay, so really make sure that you in the first half that you're not banking time for the end. You're going to burn up the neck. So run nice and easy in the first half. It's very unlikely that you are going to negative split in this race, but we want to approach it as if we were negative splitting the race. So try to make sure that you slow in that first half. But the nature of this course is with the climbs that it's very unlikely that you will. And again, we've spoken a little bit about those pacing charts. And we are going to be at the expo, and come and chat to us for a pacing chart to help you really keep you in check. Those pacing charts are really just there to hold you on the line and make sure that you're staying in check. But as I mentioned, you want to make sure that you have legs to go from 50Ks to the end. And if you can, as I mentioned, if you can make, really give it horns there, that'd be amazing. It is a beautiful race. So it is. I'm getting excited just talking about it, Dev. Yeah.
Yeah, Shona, I love your part of you home when you get on that grass, and you always hear people talking about they forget what kind of pain they were in for the last however many hours. You get on the grass and it just this euphoria of finishing and being at UCT and the crowds and stuff. yeah, that's, I think, big smiles on the face. Hopefully by the time you get there, that's the goal. I think just on the route, maybe one little caveat here, and this is really not to scare anyone, but Cape Town is Cape Town, and there's wildfires and mountains and all sorts of things there that can play a role. It's happened in the past, and something that I suppose we need to take into account. It's very rare that it does happen, but there is a slight chance of a route change last minute. And I'm talking last minute where it could be in the day before the race, where obviously we can't change pacing charts and we can't do any of those sort of pre-prep kind of work around it. Again, not to scare you, but something just to, I think, be conscious of. Shona, how would you kind of approach that if there is a last minute emergency and they do change the route the day before?
Yeah, I mean, Dev, it's a good point, and yeah, it's happened. I mean, so this will be my 6th Oceans, but out of the 5, it's happened once where they changed the routes, and I think there was something going on in Hart Bay, and so we had to go up Okapsevach. And so I think just be prepared that if that happens, try not to let that throw you off completely. You've done the training. Yes, the route's going to be different. I remember when I ran with Candace, as I was mentioning for her first one, that was when the change was. So she was really upset that she didn't do Chapman's Peak, and then 2020 happened, and then she still didn't do Chapman's Peak. So of course you want to do that as the routes, but just be aware that it can happen. Okapsevach is tough. People have differing thoughts as to which one's tougher, whether it's Chappies or Okapsevach. I personally believe Okapsevach is slightly tougher, but just understand that you've done the training, right? And so you might just need to change the goal slightly. And Okapsevach is definitely steeper, especially on the way down. So as you're coming into, like towards Steenberg Wine Estate. Sorry, that's how I know all my, just where all the wine estates are. As you're coming down towards there, past the prison and Steenberg Wine Estate, it's very steep. So then I would suggest that you really hold back up there because down there, because you really don't want to hurt the legs there. And something to mention, actually, sorry, and I should have said this earlier, before Chappies and before Okapsevach, whichever one it is, make sure that you fill up with water before then. So if you get into Noordhoek and you're about to climb Chappies, or if it's just before Okapsevach, please make sure that you fill up your water, because obviously Two Oceans Marathon are trying to be as ecologically friendly as possible. So very often they have cups of water and the cups blow away, and they might, hopefully don't run out, but just make sure, just prepare for the worst that you've got that. Okay. So just take it as it comes. Trust your training. Yes, the change might be frustrating, but you might need to adjust the goal. But even if it's not a route change, it could also be weather that play. I mean, it's Cape Town. I mean, we have very consistent weather here in Pretoria. Cape Town, it's like 4 seasons in a day. And so just be aware, if it's very windy, you're going to have to change your goal and how we run the race. Don't fight the wind, right? You have to slow down if it's very windy, especially with those headwinds. If it's very hot, you have to change your goal. I mean, as Dev and I were saying about the qualifier last weekend, it was very warm, and I think my time was essentially about 10 minutes over what it should have been because of the heat. And the heat is always going to play a role in that. If it's raining, obviously you want to make sure that you keep warm, because it does get chilly when it rains in Cape Town. So make sure that you are equipped accordingly. So just be prepared for anything when it comes to Cape Town weather. That's what I would recommend. But yeah, and just don't get despondent if there is a route change or something. You've done the training, and just trust that.
Yeah, thanks, Shona. I think on the route, I mean, there's 2 schools of thought here as well. I know some people like to try and drive the route before, just to kind of get a feel for what it's looked like, what you're prepping for on the day. Personally, I hate doing that because it also gets in my head, and I know, oh geez, there's another massive climb. So I don't like to do that, and that's why I say sort of the 2 schools of thoughts around it. But if that is something you do like to do, go and give it a drive. Go and see what the route is, what you're looking for. It's also a good way for you to help if you have got someone seconding you and spectating along the way, to kind of pick out landmarks along the route as well, so that you can say, all right, I'll see you at this tree or this building or whatever it might be. So yeah, I think just kind of that pre-planning. And then as Shona has gone through this route now, you've now got a better, clearer picture of when to hold back, when you might be able to push a little bit harder. And ultimately, the time you do get to push hard is right at the end of the race. So as Shona said, try and hold back as much as possible. But yeah, hopefully that's just painted a clearer picture. you've got something to prep for, something to work towards now. We are in those final 4 weeks, everyone. So time to really dig deep. Hang in there. I know we spoke right at the beginning about the mental fatigue that comes into the training as well. But yeah, it's time to dig deep now. We'll be going into taper pretty soon. And then, geez, before we know it, it's race day already. So yeah, I hope everyone is in a good, healthy state and training's going well. And we will see you in the next podcast. Shona, thanks again for your time and knowledge.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Dev. Looking forward to seeing everyone next week.
Cool. Cheers, everyone.